Welcome to Between the Lines, the sports betting podcast for DraftKings.com. I'm your host, Eric Rosenthal, and we got Garion Thorne.
Hey, guys.
And Will Appleby.
What's up?
So we're going to dive into all the lines, all the betting lines, Game 6 in the NBA, Game 7 in the NHL, tons of other stuff. But first, Garion, you're a diehard Toronto Raptors fan living in Canada. Tell me what you think about what just happened last night.
I think it's safe to say if I ever go crazy, Jack Nicholson and Shining style, the words on the walls will just read, they were up 6 with the ball with 3 minutes left. And I'll be in a crumpled heap of a human being on the ground. That one hurt, not gonna lie. They really, really should have won that game. But again, this series continues to be incredibly weird. Everything we know about projecting this series has been incredibly difficult with Kevin Durant initially maybe not playing and then actually playing and now probably not playing again. So, I can't believe we still have possibly 2 more games of this, but it's been fun at the very least.
Yeah, I mean, as a fan, it's got to be brutal taking that loss. But just as a fan, I had a little rooting interest on the other side of you, Garion, betting on the Warriors to extend and potentially win this series. But man, that's the second time Kawhi Leonard and Danny Green have had champagne on ice, and the game did not go their way in the end.
Yeah, I mean, look, it was a weird game for a lot of different reasons. Again, you have the Durant factor. I'm the biggest pessimist in the world, and even I wasn't like Durant's going to hit his first 3 3-pointers and have 11 points by the 10-minute mark of the second quarter. He was so much better than I thought he was going to be. I mean, on defense, he got burned a couple times. Siakam beat him off the dribble. Van Vliet beat him off the dribble. So I think it was clear he wasn't 100%, but he's just such a good shooter. And it was clear immediately. I think the Warriors had 39 points when he went down. For the rest of the game, which would have been, I believe, 34 more minutes or like 33 minutes, 45 seconds. They only averaged like 1.97 points per minute. That's awful. And it kind of carries back to what they had done in Game 4. And for most of Game 3, Game 2, and Game 1 as well, like they just haven't been the same team on offense when Durant's not been playing, and he immediately comes back and jumpstarts that offense. So, again, it's just so weird to analyze this series. You've got so many tiny things swaying direction to direction. Like the Warriors went 9 for 17 from 3-point range on their open looks, with 3 of those being Kevin Durant. The Raptors went 3 of 18. Danny Green was 0 for 4 on wide open threes. Siakam 0 for 4 on wide open threes. It's a weird series. And it still only came down to a single point and Draymond Green's fingertips. So, for NBA fans in general, I think it's probably going to be another fun Game 6.
Yeah, I hope we can one day get the sports science that they can like get the velocity of Kyle Lowry's shot to tell us if it would have went in if Draymond didn't block it. That's even possible.
It wouldn't have.
But
it probably wouldn't have, knowing history.
Yeah, Will, you were on record saying Kevin Durant was not going to play in this series.
And now you see why.
But basically, you're right.
So, they got desperate, I guess, and they were like, just screw it and toss him out there. There were so many wild takes all over Twitter, like crushing the Warriors for calf shaming him, forcing him on I don't know about all that. That's garbage to me. But he felt like he could go, and he went. And he went right off the court. So, unfortunately, but I think they'll be fine in Game 6. I think Game 7, like I'm sure Garion wants his team to end it in Game 6. They're not going to. And Game 6 Clay is coming, and Game 6 officials are coming. That's all I'm going to say.
It's possible. I'll say this. I am leaning Raptors for Game 6. I mean, my buddy and DraftKings friend of the podcast, Jeff Feinberg, used to have a tactic when his teams would lose that he basically just went to sleep. I employed that very much last night. Just shut off the TV, went to sleep, was very sad. But again, I think Durant, I can't be understated how the Warriors have looked without Kevin Durant. They scored, again, 92 points in Game 4. at home in Oracle in a game that everyone thought they had to win, in a game that everyone thought the refs would swing back in. They scored less than 2 points per minute in game 5 when Durant went down. I mean, they only scored 44 points in the second half.
I think Clay's injury factors in that, though. I think Clay's injury factors in that because I mean,
but like I'm like, is he going to be 100% for Game 6? I don't know.
You don't know, but I mean, he looked much better last night.
Like, I'm just saying, when Durant hasn't played, we now have like a 18 full quarter sample, and I'd say the Raptors won 14 of those 18 quarters.
Right, but I'm saying like Clay's injury has facdored into like half.
Oh, sure, yeah, it has, but like,
so I'm not betting it. Before that, they were doing fine. You know,
you betting Raptors money line. So
right. Well, I mean, and I'm going Warriors money line. So there.
Yeah, that's fair. I just think the Raptors have looked like the better team, and the thing that was worrisome, the thing where every Raptors fan was like, "Wow, they have to win this Game 5," was you have to now catch them with Durant not at 100%, with the understanding being he was going to continue to look better and better. Now that he's not going to play in these final 2 games, or reportedly not going to play in these final 2 games, I think it goes back to I just think the Raptors have been the better team. So
I mean, I won't argue with you there. I think your Raptors have definitely outplayed them. I think everybody thought there wasn't even going to be a Game 6 for one thing. So I think the Oracle atmosphere will play in.
Oh, sure.
Game 6, Clay is going to show up. As a Thunder fan, I know that's all too well, being up 3-1 and facing Clay. And knowing what I know about the NBA and how they like to officiate, they're going to make sure this goes 7. Like,
look,
I will say on record
on the Raptors money line.
Goes 7.
I look at it right now, and sure, there's a reason that the Warriors are favored. They're at home. That gets you some points, whatever sport we're talking about. But if I can get what I think has been the better team, knowing that there's not going to be any Kevin Durant at plus money, it's tempting for me right now.
Oh, that sounds logical. I won't question. I won't question that. Like,
I don't think the Raptors shoot 3 of 18 on open 3-pointers for 2 consecutive games. Like
Game 6 line, by the way, Warriors are -3, -112. Raptors +3, -109 the other way. Warriors -152 on the money line. Raptors +133 with an over/under of 210.5.
I mean, it's about a coin flip for a reason. So. It's going to be close no matter what.
I think the average fan is kind of saying, oh, well, obviously Warriors win Game 6. This isn't even a question. But, Garion, you spoke to it. The Warriors won 1 quarter last night. They won 1 quarter, and that's the quarter that Kevin Durant played the most. That's the only one they won. And now with Durant gone, I don't even know if the Raptors are in a worse situation than they were before Game 5 started. I know you obviously want to take that win, but Kevin Durant, they're the greatest team of all time, in my opinion, with Kevin Durant out there.
They're not.
This is the 5th straight championship, finals for a reason. But with him out, I'm not even sure you're in a worse position. I think the Warriors were going to win this series if Durant was even 75% of himself for 5, 6, and 7. And now with him out, I think they have honestly just as good of a chance, or if not better, than if Durant was healthy with 3 games to play.
Well, I mean, the interesting injury, too, and the one that not a lot of people are talking about, understandably, I mean, Kevin Durant is a massive figure in this league, but Kevon Looney and his bulletproof vests also might not play in Game 6 or Game 7. And,
the talk is he's going to go. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, that's,
how much can he go?
It's tough. I would just say, like,
the rest of the series, I mean, who knows if that's true or not.
But the difference he brings to them on defense it's incredible, especially when they didn't have Durant, because, and
with how washed Boogie's looked. So Looney,
exactly. Like Durant, if Durant was healthy and you lost Looney, at the very least, you could still throw out the Hamptons 5 and be fine with that defensive rotation, even with KD looking a little bit not 100% on defense. More so worse on defense than offense. I think it's probably a safe thing we could say about those 14 minutes or 11 minutes he actually played. But yeah, when if you don't have Looney out there and you have to have Andrew Bogut or DeMarcus Cousins out there, or throw out some weird, like,
Jordan Bell,
really death lineup, but sort of death lineup with like Jordan Bell or with Sean Livingston trying to give you some length. Like, those just aren't good defensive lineups, especially if they're not going to play Marc Gasol off the court. So that injury is a bigger deal and would probably be getting a lot more buzz, if we didn't obviously have Bob Myers crying in a microphone for 10 seconds. So it's, again, this series continues to just be the peak weirdness.
I don't know how people thought that was fake. Like, people thought he was faking crying. Like,
Yeah, Eric and I were talking about this before we started. My thing with this, like, I'm surprised Kerr hasn't gotten a little bit more blame in this whole situation. Like, I understand it's probably not his final decision or anything, but this is someone who, before Game 3, when talking about Klay Thompson, was like, I don't know how I would live with myself. I couldn't sleep at night if I put Klay in this game and he re-aggravated that injury. And then you basically, by doing that, I think the implication was we might lose tonight, but we're definitely not going to lose Game 4 with Klay being healthy. We'll be 2-2. It'll be fine. And then you lose Game 4, and now you're in a situation where all of a sudden this moral stance, this moral high ground of, I could never do that to a player, that changes when your back's up against the wall.
Well, the two situations are a little different, too. Klay only missed one game. Durant was out for a month. So...
Sure, but just that's the thing. It's like he took such care with someone who had only missed one game and then just threw a guy who had missed a month into the fire because all of a sudden they had to win. I mean, again, it's
I don't know why everybody has to blame someone. Like, I don't think anybody really knows who or what decided it. Like,
it's fair. I
didn't think
a little hypocrisy.
I don't think
it's a little hypocrisy. Yeah.
Yeah. Not that I wouldn't have done the same thing. I'll be honest. I would have put him out there.
Too. But it's just him, that exact phrase that, like, I don't know what would have happened to Klay, or if something happened to him, I don't know what I would have done with myself. Like, it looks really weird in juxtaposition.
Yeah, exactly. So, Garion, you're on the Raptors, and you've been on someone who was on the Warriors this whole series, maybe as a pessimist, but now with Durant out, you're on the Raptors.
Well, I mean,
can't believe
this though. Game 1, you and I were on the Raptors. Game 2, I think we were both on the Raptors. Like, the whole thing about the series line was always Durant. It was always Durant. And again, if on an individual basis, I'm going to be on the Raptors if we're just going game by game.
Yeah, we're forgetting if any other team in the history of the league lost a guy who won the NBA Finals MVP the last 2 years in a row, or even 1 year in a row, or ever won an MVP, we'd be saying they're done. And I think we're giving the Warriors a little too much credit. I know they went, 31-1 for a while without him, but that wasn't against an NBA Finals team and Kawhi Leonard.
They swept Portland. Like, they swept
Portland with
not all. I know Portland's not Portland. All right, go back to the Rockets then. Everybody said the Rockets were the real finals. You look how they played against the Rockets without him. I mean, it's not a fluke. Like, they play better team ball. They pass it more. The problem is their entire roster is falling apart. So they're passing to people who can barely stand up. So, and they're missing open looks. So, I mean, honestly, I expect the strength in numbers Warriors to be back in Game 6. Game 7, I don't know. I mean, all bets are off as far as I'm concerned. I don't know where I'm going. But I fully expect the Warriors to look like the Warriors in Game 6. Yeah.
I want to talk about some of the player props on, especially Steph Curry, Kawhi Leonard. They have the two highest player props. Curry is over under 33.5 points. Kawhi at 31.5. And we can get into the other guys too. Do you see explosions from either of those guys? The minute should be way up. There's no time to rest. It should easily be in the 40s, if not 44, 45, 46 minutes. Does that lean you to the over for either of those guys, Garion?
Yeah, I mean, this is a very similar conversation. I think these are the exact numbers we saw heading into Game 4. And though Steph's over didn't end up hitting in that
Curry's
game.
is like a point or two higher, but yeah, it's basically the same.
But even though it didn't end up actually hitting, again, we saw Steph play the entire until they sort of gave up and put in the bench with like 2.5 minutes left. He played 22 consecutive minutes in the second half. Like it seems like Kerr at this point, and especially with that shortened rotation because of the injuries to Durant and everyone else. I mean, Iggy might not be able to play the allotment of minutes that Kerr would have hoped for in a vacuum, stuff like that. It seems like more than willing to be like, hey, Steph, you're going to have to play the entire time. And then we saw stuff from Nick Nurse that really forced Kerr's hand into having to extend these minutes. Like, everyone made fun of him for the box and one, and, Steph called it janky and whatever. But then in Game 4, when they took Klay Thompson off the court, he immediately ran back that box and one. It worked for 2 consecutive possessions, and Kerr had to put Klay back into the game, even though he only rested for like 48 seconds of game time. So I think you're going to see stuff like that where the Warriors are forced to play these guys extreme amounts of minutes on both sides of the court. So yeah, I'm fine with with Steph. And the thing with Steph too is like we're in game 6 of the finals and he's yet to shoot above 50% from three. Like you kind of have to figure that's going to happen at some point.
Well, just the quantity of threes. At halftime of the game, I tweeted the 2 keys for the Warriors were to stop passing the ball to the Raptors and to just shoot more threes. And it's seriously confusing how who we think is the greatest shooting backcourt of all time just doesn't shoot as nearly as many threes as like the Rockets do. And they finally, when the game was finally on the line, Clay shoots a 3, hits it. Curry hits a 3, hits it. Clay hits a 3. And you go, why do they not just do this all game long? Way too many possessions are Kevon Looney driving for a crazy layup or Livingston dishing it to Cousins for a mid-range jumper or something. Like just shoot a ridiculous amount of threes. If you shoot 50, you shoot 50.
I think that's they get complacent because they've won so much.
Yeah. And it seems like the Rockets have shown us that you got to push it farther. You need to shoot more threes, and they finally did last night. I really think that's the key is if Steph launched 20 –
nobody's modeling anything after the Rockets.
If Steph launched 20 threes next game, I don't think there'd be a problem with that. I really don't. He needs to just shoot more. Clay needs to shoot more threes. A 30-footer from Steph Curry is still great offense when you factor in it's not a turnover and the offensive rebound rate for the Warriors. Like that should be a heavier part of the offense.
Possession when Draymond Green had I forget, it was like I think it was the one Clay to hit it to make it 103-100. But they showed Draymond Green. There was no one around him by like 20 feet behind the 3-point line. He kicked it across to Clay, and Clay pump faked whoever it was who jumped at him, and nailed the shot. They need more like that. Like they just got to move the ball more. That's been the ball's been very stagnant. And that's not who they've been historically. The strength in numbers teams were all about ball movement. So, if they're going to get back to being the Warriors, they've just got to kick the ball around and find the open looks and hit them. And like you said, not pass the ball to the Raptors. I don't think they, are voluntarily choosing that. But, turnovers. Probably shouldn't do that.
They have always been a high turnover team, though. Like, that's not necessarily anything new. And it could speak to sort of that complacency. Like, you could probably cut together a super reel of just Warriors doing weird things when they're up 20 in the fourth quarter.
Because they were always really motivated in 2016, the 73-19. They never looked like they were taking a game or a quarter off. But I think since then, since they didn't finish it, it's almost like they've gotten into LeBron mode where something like half the time they just don't care. And then like, okay, we need to win now.
Yeah. So, the weird thing, like that play in particular you brought up though, with like the Draymond pass into the Clay 3, like, Draymond hit 2 wide open threes earlier in that game. I think he missed the only wide open 3 he took in the second half, but that'll happen. He's Draymond. But when he can do that,
the backpack on.
He hit that big 3.
Have you seen that meme?
He's the Dora the Explorer of shooters. But when you leave him wide open, like, and that's what you're sort of taught to do in basic defensive principles, is like, okay, leave Draymond open. That's a win. If Draymond's going to shoot a 3, that's better than Clay or Steph taking a contested 30-footer.
Literally anyone else, basically.
But at the same time, like, if you're not going to pressure him at all, he's just such a good passer. We kind of see this to a lesser extent with Gasol on the other side. Like, you have to guard them because
that's what makes the triple-double prop interesting. Again, at plus 250. So,
especially if they're going to keep running. They really haven't broken it out like they had against the Rockets. But if they're going to run that like high pick and roll between Steph and Draymond, that's when Draymond's assists really just start bunching.
My question is who's going to enter the starting lineup, because you never know, like we've always talked about, you never know with Kerr.
Back to Boogie, probably.
Maybe.
And then I want to talk about Boogie. Do you believe that Steve Kerr saying that Boogie played great? I thought Boogie played honestly terrible, and I know he had
I think he looks better than he has.
That was just second best game of the series. That's a low bar, I guess.
Yeah.
But that's not saying everything he's got on the offensive end, and you can't count on him to shoot 75% next game. Gave up on defense. He literally almost threw the game away. Just no one will remember because they won. But he goaltends. He gets blown by.
That wasn't goaltending. That offensive goal.
No, the defensive one.
What they were seeing there.
Yeah, the defensive one. He defensively goaltends. Yeah,
but the offensive one, I have no idea why they called that basket.
And then he gets the offensive foul on the screen. Back-to-back possessions, and they have to pull him out on defense where they get the stop. He was not good. Everything he got on the offensive end,
obligated to use him. I think I mean, I think he just feels like obligated to use it. I don't think he really even wants to.
I don't know, but I will say, like, if you asked the Warriors like what they needed most, and I agree with you, he's been a sieve on defense. So maybe he does give everything back that he applies on the offensive end. But even the talk around Durant was, okay, you don't need him to be MVP Kevin Durant. You just need a guy who can score 15 points, whose name isn't Steph Curry or Klay Thompson. And Boogie at least gave him that. Like, they needed some sort of tertiary scoring. Because if you're going to get 60 from those guys, you really only need two other dudes to score 12 to 15 points. And they got that. Again, I get it. He's been bad, but they've struggled to score. And it might be more important at this point.
We're not struggling.
Yeah, I just don't.
I want to see Steve Kerr go Joe Namath.
I think Cousins, it really hurts them. And sometimes it's not that Cousins is like worse than Andrew Bogut. But when Andrew Bogut's on the court, Steph Curry doesn't try to throw it to Bogut to post up, But when Cousins is on the court, sometimes they let him.
Well, I think they're getting retro Boogie, not current form, half body Boogie. So I think that's why they feel like they can kick it into him, because they think he's the all-star Boogie, not the washed Boogie.
So again, Warriors -3 for game 3, -152 on the money line. Raptors +133. Over under Steph.
He's not even listed in the points. Did you notice that? Boogie's not even listed in the over under for points.
Boogie's not listed. Unclear how much he'll play. But Steph Curry over or under 5.5 3-pointers. Klay 3.5 threes. I like the Klay one. You like the Klay one?
I'm in our final segment, I'm on the Klay 3-pointers one. I think he easily clears 3.5.
It is game 6 Klay. And any of those
3-pointer threes probably.
Any of that 3-pointer props stick out to you, Garion?
Klay, obviously. I think it's a fair number. And again, it speaks.
I'm surprised it's only -121.
It's not terrible in that aspect.
That's a nice price.
Going into game 4, we were talking about this with the 2.5 Klay prop, where generally speaking, regardless of what's happening, Klay is 3.5 locked. Like it has to be 3.5. So it's at least back up to where it probably should be. But there's a lot of reasons to like this. If you want to take a look at just, again, the shortened bench, the shortened rotation, the fact he's probably going to have to play somewhere in the realm of 40 to 42 minutes, or if you just want to say game 6 Klay, like that's fine too.
If they're going to win, he's going to have to score in the high 20s. Like if he doesn't score in the high 20s, they're not going to win.
Yeah, I wasn't actually. I don't think he was listed, because we often like to look at those like player X scores X amount of points plus team to win at.
No, they didn't list him. No.
Yeah, Klay's not there. It's kind of
it's only Iguodala and Draymond Green. It's like we don't want to give you the two guys you want.
Iggy is kind of interesting, just in the sense that his minutes will have to go up with Durant not playing, and you would think if Iguodala
should get 10 at home, but in his form, you don't know.
Sure, but if he can hit 2 open threes, I would say think about that bet less from the what are the actual odds that Iguodala scores 9 points, and more so from the if Iguodala scores 9 points, what are the odds the Warriors lose? And I would say that's pretty slim. If you get a deep scoring game from Andre Iguodala, the Warriors aren't going to lose. So I think those things are pretty correlated. Obviously, it's priced the way it is because I'm not all that confident he can score 9 points. But if he does, I got no questions in my mind that the Warriors are winning that game.
And Gary, to speak to that, Andre Iguodala, if he gets his 9 points, it's not going to be on 5 for 16 shooting. If he gets his 9 points, it's going to be he shot 2 for 3 from 3 or something, and that helped the Warriors win the game. Versus like if it was a Jamal Crawford type of guy, just because he goes over his points, that might actually hurt you.
I feel like Andre Iguodala would fight you if you ever compared him to Jamal Crawford in his face.
That's the opposite. I'm saying he's the opposite.
I know, but he can bring him up in the same breath.
Can I bet on that fight?
Yeah, it's going to be officiated by Conor McGregor
and Eric Bledsoe.
It's the prelim to Justin Bieber versus Tom Cruise boxing match.
How is Bieber favored in that?
Canadians are out here wilding. One prop I do really like, and it's one of those where we talk about this all the time. If you really parse through the book, sometimes you can find some things that maybe don't make a ton of sense, and you can sort of take advantage. Kawhi's rebounding prop, for him to go over 9.5 rebounds, is -110. which I think that in itself is a fair line. But if you go over and look at Kawhi to record a double-double, that's minus 134. I understand that the double-double prop is vague and leaves open the possibility that he could get 10 assists, but guess what Kawhi Leonard has never done in his career? Get 10 assists. If he's going to double-double, it's because of rebounds. So if you were looking at that to maybe bet it for double-double, just take him over 9.5 rebounds, which is something I think he could very easily do because, again, he's going to play 44 minutes in this game.
Exactly. And that was a question I had for you. I liked props of Kawhi's, even his assist over. I don't think he's going to get 10 assists. Assist and rebound over better than his points. We saw at the end of the game, the Warriors used the strategy of just double teaming him at the end. And I wonder how much at Oracle they're going to do that and say, hey, Kawhi Leonard's not going to beat us. If Pascal Siakam's confident enough to hit above the break threes, or Fred VanVleet on the road in Oracle and the lap, it's going to be as loud as possible.
I would imagine that's probably their mentality. I mean, who do you want to beat you, Kawhi Leonard or Danny Green? I'm good one day and I'm garbage the next. I mean,
yeah, that's why.
Who are you really gonna?
Yeah, I don't know if you can double in like every play though. Like I think it's something they probably mix in a little bit, but I don't know. Again, I don't think they want to give the Raptors as many open threes as they got in Game 5. Because just law of averages would suggest that they're not going to shoot, 16% on their open threes? I think league average is like 44% on those shots. So you are playing with fire a little bit. I would say, to your exact example, they're probably perfectly fine with Siakam taking as many three-point shots as he wants. I don't think Fred VanVleet is afraid of anything. He's from the murder capital of America. And that's not even
Siakam is 0 for 3, 0 for 3, 0 for 2, and 0 for 4 from 3.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, he's not a very good three-point shooter. What he is, he's a great corner three-point shooter. I don't have the stats in front of me right now, but
he shot 37% on corner threes this season. And it went up a little bit as the season kind of went along.
As the season progressed.
But you're going to take your chances with somebody who has yet to make a three for the entire series.
But even like above the break isn't like great on the corners. You know what I mean? Like Danny Green is a 52% corner three-point shooter. Like you should shoot better from the corners. So
that's the easiest shot. So.
And Siakam's not getting those corner threes. He's shooting above the break threes that just aren't going to go in for him. And I think the Warriors will live with that. I Kawhi Leonard under on the points. I think it's being bet up by the public. Everyone thinks it's Kawhi's going to play all these minutes and just go all in on him. But I really like the under. I think the Warriors will make other people beat them. I think Iguodala was going to play as many minutes as he possibly can, obviously with Durant out. And that's a tough defensive matchup for Kawhi, although obviously he can score on anybody.
I think that correlates to who you think is going to win, really. Like, if you think the Raptors are going to win, you probably go over. But if you don't, I would go under.
Yeah, I see him having to score in the 30s to win at Oracle on the road to win an NBA Finals. He had to be a hero late in that game with a fantastic run by himself, and they still lost. So
some of the ancillary players are going to be in foul trouble. Like this is the way it goes with Game 6 officiating. It went that way for Cleveland, Golden State. It went that way for Golden State Thunder. The NBA is going to be very motivated to try to find ways to push this to 7. So I would, it wouldn't be surprise me at all if guys like Lowry or maybe Ibaka or who knows, suddenly Lowry was in foul trouble last night. So, it's going to be interesting. But honestly, I feel like with the Kawhi prop specifically, I can't see going over and thinking the Warriors are going to win.
Yeah, it wouldn't make sense
I think you correlate it to who you think is going to win.
Yeah. Garion, do you buy the officiating influencing the game, especially obviously the officiating decides sometimes who's going to win, who's going to lose, but do you think the NBA actually has a preference? Do you think the league, because it's tough for me to buy into it. I see all these stats all the time, like the Warriors are 23-1 with these combination of two officials on a Tuesday when they're at home, and it's not a national holiday.
Look,
read Tim Donaghy's book. That's all I'm going to say.
I'll say this:
Tim Donaghy's book.
And I'm fully aware of the history we have with this. I've said this before on the pod, though. Like as a sports fan, I'm almost like feigning ignorance is bliss. Like I just hope that that's not the case. And I would say specifically to those, like the Raptors are 9-1 with this official, the Warriors are 10-1 with this official. guess what? When teams win 60 games, there's probably not a lot of officials that they have a losing record with. That's how winning and losing works. So that's something that kind of gets glossed over sometimes when it's like, oh, the Raptors have a winning record with this official. I bet they have a winning record with every official in the NBA. They won 58 games. So you kind of have to think about that and take it with a grain of salt sometimes too.
But there's one thing I've learned, and it, not to go team specific with records, is the NBA likes to officiate in two ways. They like to keep games close, and they like to extend this series.
Sure.
I mean, you have to think of it from a league perspective. The ratings have been atrocious. Like, it's been the worst, in quite a while. And they have potential to get it to a game 7. So, I mean, do you think there's a little bit of behind the scenes motivations? There are going to be. And, there's historical precedent. Like, the Cavs were down 3-1. Game 6 officiating, drove Ayesha Curry to tweet about it. The Warriors were down 3-1. I was tweeting about it. I was mad as hell at that officiating and Clay's performance, obviously. But if you go back and you look at history, they always try to do those two things. So I don't know if they're going to be all that blatant about it. Like, I'm not going to scream, corrupt, blah 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 blah. These guys are Golden State fans. But, there's motivation there. They want this to go 7, and I fully expect it to.
I guess I could buy that. I don't think the league office is sitting there. There's conversations going down with Adam Silver going, okay.
Well, they're freezing envelopes. They don't have time to focus on stuff like this.
Yeah,
No.
They won't even come on. They won't even broadcast the lottery. So, I mean, if we're going to fight the this conspiracy theories, start there. I mean, broadcast the damn lottery live.
That is strange. It would be a lot more fun to see that. But let's go over to the NHL. We'll come back to the NBA and give our final picks. But our resident hockey expert, Garion Thorne, I wouldn't say biggest NHL fan in the world, but he is Canadian. So that just
I would.
Okay. Biggest hockey fan worldwide.
Yep.
Tell us what you think. I picked Bruins in 7 before the series at plus 350. I'm loving that. I have that right now. What do you think about Game 7? Tell us the odds and tell us what you think. Who's going to win?
Yeah, I mean, to loop this back for a second to things we've already said, like, and you kind of brought this up, like a couple episodes ago, we were like, this seems like a series that's going to go 7. So if you want to take Bruins or Blues in 7, that's not a terrible bet. I've had the Bruins just regular series line since the start of this series. I will say though, it's been really, really strange, kind of what's gone down in these last 2 games. And we talked about this in the past, and Rob Pizzola was on the show talking about this in a similar fashion. Like, of all the major sports, hockey is the most random when it comes to just variance and weird puck bounces and stuff like that.
The 1 seed getting swept by an 8.
Yeah, like that's all on the table in hockey. It's not usually on the table anywhere else. Wow. But you look at when this series was 2-2 going back to Boston for Game 5. We've now seen the road team win each of the last 2 games. And we've also seen the road team win each of the last 2 games in games you could argue they were significantly outplayed in. Like, I went and found some of the numbers and give a little bit of variance here just because I know some people, hate Corsi. That's fine, whatever. It's basically just puck possession. But in Game 5, in their loss, the Bruins controlled the puck 61.3% of the time. They had 14 high danger scoring chances to the Blues 5. And they lost that game 2-1. Fast track to Game 6, a game in which the Bruins end up winning 5-1, but were only up 1-0 heading into the third period. The Blues win that game in terms of Corsi at 55.7%. They have 13 high danger scoring chances to the Bruins 3. And only 2 of those 3 were on 5-on-5 situations at even strength. And then you look at just the expected goal score of that game. By expected goals, the Blues should have won that game. They were at 2.83 versus the Bruins at 2.56. So just weird stuff has been happening. The team that has actually dominated the play and the pace has lost each of the last 2 games. So, I mean, I don't know if this is just a roundabout way of coming back to the original point of hockey is random, but I think it's more complex than just saying, like, in the Stanley Cup Finals, the home team has won Game 7 12 of 16 times. Like, that's a real neat bow to put on this, but I would just say that I think I'm leaning Blues just because this has been a really random series.
Don't forget about the freaking Boston factor.
Yeah, there's the freaking Boston factor too, but I think if we're looking at a series that's been random and very close, I'm just going to take the team that arguably has played a bit better and is the one that's the underdog. So even though I have Bruins series, if I were to have to bet this in a vacuum again, I think I would just take the Blues as the underdog.
Yeah, Bruins minus 162, Blues plus 138 in a game 7, over under of 5. Does the over, do you lean one way or the other on the over under? I tend in game 7s to prefer unders and defense because there's no mental lapses. There's no jogging back. Like everybody obviously skating back in hockey, but there's no letting up on the gas at any
hockey
time.
Player jog on skates. That would be interesting.
Yeah.
That'd be fun.
Yeah, you can't will your way to more points on offense, but you can will your way to just better defensive effort and better mental focus.
Yeah, I mean, you might see a lot of shell, especially if one team, like let's say one team gets up 2-0 early, like then you could really just see a team sit back and never pinch their defenseman, never take any chances on the offensive end. It's weird. Like I'm almost inclined to take the under just because of what we saw with the Bruins. Like I think they just got so lucky in the goal scoring department in game 6 that if they play a similar style to that, again, only producing 3 high danger scoring chances is, I mean, that's low for a finals game, but it's just low for any game, period. Like you would want your offense creating more scoring chances than that, 10 times out of 10. So I think you're right to maybe lean to the under here. I mean, we've got 2 very established goalies. Like Jordan Binnington had the best goals against average of any goaltender during the regular season. He's been pretty good in the playoffs as well.
Fantastic.
Rask has been there, done that 1,000 times in these situations. 2 very physical teams as well. I would ride with you on everyone just being a little bit nervous maybe and protective and safe.
I have a stat. Wait for it. I actually have a hockey stat.
Here we go.
The Bruins are 8-0 when Brad Marchand scores in the 2019 playoffs. They are 7-15 when he doesn't.
Wow.
So that's pretty heavily correlated.
It would seem.
And I bet you there's something in the DK Sportsbook we could bet on that. Is that true?
And as somebody who was ready to retire after his one successful hockey bet, I'm actually on Brad Marchand scoring because I don't know. Maybe it's the freaking Boston factor because I've just disclaimer for anybody who's just watching me for the first time. I know basically absolutely nothing about hockey, so just take that with a grain of salt. But I mean, I feel like if you think the Bruins are going to win, it seems that more likely than not that Brad Marchand's going to score. So, it's very similar to the Kawhi prop. It seems pretty strongly correlated. Another one I liked actually, because the Bruins have won by 2 or more in every game, was the puck line of Bruins by 1.5. This is the well I went to before and won. I think I'm going to go there again because they're getting plus 175 to win by 1.5. So if I feel like the Bruins are going to win, and for whatever reason I do, I think they win, convincingly rather than narrowly. I mean, maybe convincingly is 3-1, and we stay under. But those are two things I like, especially with that stat. They're 25-1 all time. When I think that's playoffs all time. When Marchand scores. Wow. So if Marchand scores, you got to think the Bruins are going to win.
Garion, I'll ask you about the Conn Smythe winner because in the NBA, you can't bet on who's going to win MVP anymore. It's basically Curry or Kawhi. The odds are not worth it. Just take whoever thinks going to win the series.
We had so many theories on that too, and they all blew up.
Yeah, we said bet Curry to win the MVP, not Warriors.
These podcasts would be so short if we were just like take the favorite. So.
Yeah, but now Tuukka Rask is minus 225 to win the Conn Smythe, which is higher than the Bruins' odds to win tomorrow. Does that make any sense to you? Can he win if they lose the game? They lose a game 7 at home.
I don't think so.
So then everybody else, Ryan O'Reilly is plus 300, but everybody else is plus 300 or more. Where's the value? Because if Tuukka Rask can't win, if they lose the game, then somebody else has to win, and everybody's plus 300 or more. There's got to be value on someone.
I think it kind of says that they think the Bruins are going to win. To me, that's what that says.
Yeah. I mean, I think we sort of talked about this in the last episode too. I think the one reason Tuca just seems such the overwhelming favorite at this point is we've seen such balanced scoring from the Bruins, where if they were to win, it's almost like splitting the vote with how potent so many of their top line guys have been, where you just end up giving it to the goaltender who's been fantastic throughout the entirety of the playoffs. Where with the Blues, Tarasenko's had a fantastic playoffs. Ryan O'Reilly's had a fantastic playoffs. So if they come out on top, you're more likely to see one of those two guys who have just been such the overwhelming force that has led their team here, along with Binnington, who's again, like I said this going into last episode, I think he's plus 750 now. If we like the under, and we think there's going to be a lot of defensive hockey played in this game, maybe that means there's not a lot of like shots on goal, but under would be heavily correlated with one of these teams having a fantastic goaltending performance. If Binnington gets a shutout in Game 7 of his first NHL Finals in his rookie season, that could probably wrap up the Conn Smythe for him. So I would say Rask is probably the safest bet and the smartest bet. But if you want to find some value, I would still go to the goaltender for the Blues.
Yeah, he gets a shutout in Game 7. I know it's supposed to be a full playoff award, but you got to think recency bias is going to kick in.
They vote that night, so like they're voting in the third period. So
yeah,
I think it was actually
that 3-1 score I mentioned. I just wanted to toss this out there since I mentioned it. He's plus 1,800 for score. So if you're looking for a dart throw, that might be an interesting one.
You know what's going to happen is they're going to be up 3-1 with a couple minutes left, and then
it's an empty net goal and ruin everything. Yeah,
they blew a 3-1 lead.
Oh God,
that meme will come back.
Can I say the saddest part? Not to make it about my Raptors sadness, the entire podcast, but I think the saddest part was waking up this morning, and I can't remember which beat writer tweeted it out, but like someone took a picture of their like little ballot with Kawhi Leonard MVP that they had to do during the fourth quarter in case the Raptors won. It was just like, oh God, it's like it's the other path. It's the road less traveled, but hopefully still traveled within the next 5 days.
I need a video of whoever that is throwing that away with the Price is Right fail horn.
We'll go over a few U.S. Open odds real quick. Dustin Johnson, the favorite at plus 700. Rory McIlroy, second at plus 850. Brooks Koepka at plus 950. And then Tiger Woods at plus 1,200. Is there anybody that's a favorite long shot that either of you like? And then I think my favorite bet is head-to-head McIlroy versus Tiger Woods because, you know, people love to bet on Tiger Woods. I know he won before and people are all hyped about that, but the public loves Tiger Woods, and I'll take the sharp money on the opposite side, betting against Tiger as much as I possibly can. Yeah, you're going to lose that one time, but in general, it's just been a cash cow to bet against Tiger Woods the last years, and I think a head-to-head versus McIlroy is a good bet.
Koepka is somebody I like because he's a Knoll. I mean, and, you know, I got to stick with my alum. But, I mean, he's a pretty damn good Knoll, so it's not just some wild, you know, thought there. So Koepka for plus 950 to take the thing down is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I'll fully admit I know less about golf.
Plus 225 at top 5 would be this safer pick. I don't know a hell of a lot about golf either, but Koepka is going to be up there. I mean, I'm confident in saying that. Whether he wins it or not is another question. But top 5 for plus 225 is not bad.
I mean, all I'll say is in listening to golf guru Pat Mayo talk about this stuff for the last 2 years, I feel like, and maybe it doesn't apply to this tournament. Again, I don't really know. But generally speaking, attacking sort of the mid-tier is your best way to win money betting golf. Like, you might not win every tournament, but at some point you're going to take down a 30-1 or a 40-1. Like, it's just hard to bet these guys. It's hard to bet someone to win a tournament against, 120 other golfers when they're only 7-1, like, or 9-1 or 8-1. Like, I just think it's hard to consistently make money betting golf, betting the favorites. So maybe that changes for US Open. But I probably wouldn't just be betting a favorite just because I knew their name. So
something I'll throw out there he's kind of a favorite. He's not really a favorite considering his odds, but is Matt Kuchar. Matt Kuchar is like always in the top 10 or top 5, and he's plus 333 to finish in the top 10. So that's a pretty nice price. I mean, I don't think he's going to win. He typically doesn't really win, but he's one of those, he's like a poor man's Phil Mickelson. He usually, finishes like second, third, fourth. So plus 333 for the top 10 is pretty nice. And I have a personal interest because I used to live down the street from him when I was little. I actually knew him. He wouldn't know who the hell I am now, but I would love to tweet about him and make fun of him just for historical sake. But for betting accuracy's sake, plus 333 top 10 for Kuchar. That's you hit it on the you're not really going to find any value betting on Tiger Woods. But I mean, if you look at how Kuchar's performed historically, pretty much everywhere, he's almost always in the top 10. Plus 333 is a really good price.
Yeah, there's a million bets in the DK Sportsbook on the U.S. Open. Everything from the nationality of the winner to hole-in-one props to head-to-head. Brooks Koepka specials. Head in there.
Koepka.
I love to pronounce his name wrong. It's always fun.
Okay, it's almost like it's like a secret disclaimer to not take our golf advice seriously.
I really like Brooks Koepka.
Hey, I'm a data. I'm an analytics guy. I look at the numbers. I know one of the best bettors I ever knew, professional, never watched any games. Kind of Billy Bean style with Moneyball, who didn't watch the games, and he actually thought Rob Zoll, who was on the show, talked about that too. That sometimes some of the best guys don't even watch; they just dive into the analytics and dive into.
Well, because they can take the personal biases out.
Yeah. Exactly. So that's what I like to do with golf. I'll listen to Pat May. I'll listen to golf experts and look at the numbers and bet from there. But let's get back to the NBA because that's our best sport. That's where we've been killing it all playoffs long, just cashing win after win after win. And we'll give our final bets at the end to hopefully win some money. But Game 6, it seems like, Will, you're on the Warriors. Garion, you're on the Raptors. Let's fast forward to potential Game 7 because you can bet the series price right now. And if you think the Raptors are like a lock in Game 7 to win, maybe you take the Raptors win the series now and hope that they take Game 6. And if not, you feel confident in Game 7. Garion, what do you think about potentially doing that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I could be wrong here. Last time I checked, I think their series price was minus 286. Is that
minus
right?
286 on the Raptors, plus 230 for the Golden State Warriors.
Yeah.
Wouldn't the price improve if the Raptors won, though?
Well, it would be over if the Raptors won.
Yeah, it'd be over. Yeah, so
it would really improve.
Pretty good bet.
Warriors won. Would the Raptors series price for Game 7 not improve?
Yeah, they might take it off the board. Who knows? Yeah, I mean, look, if you follow. And you don't have to follow my particular logic, but if you are following my logic, which as I spelled out before, is just the Raptors can't shoot as poorly as they shot in Game 5. The Raptors have consistently been the better team. They did shoot as poorly as they did and only lost by a single point. Maybe that's not enough for you to think they're going to go into Oracle for the last game in Oakland and take down the Warriors. I can understand being hesitant about something like that. But, even Will.
Plus 195 to win in 7. Series price score. So that's definitely better than minus 280. I mean, if I'm taking one of those, I'm taking plus 195.
Yeah, but like even you were saying like you don't know what's going to happen in Game 7. Like you're very confident in the Warriors in Game 6, but even someone who's confident in them in Game 6 can't necessarily say they're going to win in Game 7. Like I don't know. I guess minus 286 for the Raptors isn't a terrible price if you think they have a legitimate chance to win both these games, which I do. You could bet exact series line and get a little bit more, I
think there's enough difference in the price there that if you're going Raptors, I would go Raptors 4-3 rather than taking the minus 286. Honestly,
that's fine
because it's plus 195, so that's a pretty big difference.
Yeah.
If Durant was playing, I would think Game 6 is just over and done with.
Durant is not playing. We can stop using those words.
Yeah. So, but with him out, I think the Raptors do have a real shot in Game 6. I'm not on the Warriors money line at all. And that's someone who's yelled about the Warriors are going to win the championship from day one of not even Durant signing, of them losing to the Cavs Game 7. I said Durant was going to sign.
They're going to come back next episode after they win Game 6 and say, "See, I told you, I've been on the Warriors all along."
I have been, and this is the first time I'm a little shook. I'm still picking them to win Game 6, but man, I'm a little shook. I'll be happy for Garion if the Raptors win, but I don't know.
I'll go on record. I'm guaranteeing a Warriors win in Game 6.
Guaranteeing a Warriors win. First video edition of Between the Lines. Follow us on Twitter at Between Lines DK. By the way, send us questions. We're gonna give away some money at the end of the show.
Guarantee. That's not even a Barkley voice. I don't know what voice that is, but I'm just trying to do Barkley's guarantee, and yeah.
We'll bring Charles Barkley on to talk about golf on a future episode, but. Yeah, we're going to give away some money at the end of this podcast.
Not advice on how to play golf. Maybe advice on how to bet on golf.
Yeah, five people are going to get $20 DK dollars each. That will be announced
free
at the end of the show.
Free money.
Free money. Hey, who doesn't like free money? Garion, you like free money?
I do. Especially sweet DK dollars, which are in American. So, to my poor Canadian wallet, that's a real big boost.
Those are worth more than real dollars because you take those.
Garion's going to go sell them on the street. In Toronto.
He's going to go to Jurassic Park.
The underground market in Jurassic Park and get a little extra.
A guy walking around Game 5 saying he would give up his lung, kidney, and liver for a Raptors Game 5 ticket.
Was it and or? Because I feel like I draw the line at one.
And all three. So I'm wondering, what will he do for a Game 7 ticket if it gets there?
I don't know. Probably less. I think Game 5 was like this euphoric moment because even though there was the fear of like they have to win this game before Durant gets like super healthy, there still was the like, oh, they can lose and we'll be fine. Game 7, I think like you could feel everyone in this city. Just I'll walk around that morning. It'll be incredibly tense. It'll be hilarious.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. So I think it's time to end the show with what we're going to predict, the bets that we're going to give out. We have $500 each to bet on whatever we want. Garion, I'm going to let you start, give out your picks, and then after that, we're going to give away some free money.
We got a clean slate now. The run video, we got to emphasize that because we were going with 100 an episode. Now we're going 500, and we're going to be keeping hardcore track. So I'm ready.
Everything's going to be tracked. Everything's going to be on record, so that when I get first place week after week, I want everyone to know it.
I want the first place award, though, to be called the Garion picked Auburn at 10-1 award.
And then we can see when Eric is claiming, look at how much I got right, and he's in last place. We can see how much those comments really mean.
Okay, so I'm going to stick to what I've been preaching the entire podcast. I'm going to take the Raptors money line at plus 133. I'm going to put $300 on that. I'm going to put $100 on that Kawhi Leonard rebounds prop. Again, I just think he plays so many minutes. And even if the Warriors do end up double teaming him, that's not going to affect his rebound total. So I think that's nice. That's minus 110 for over 9.5 rebounds. And then I'm going to take kind of a correlated bet to the Raptors money line, Warriors under 106.5 points. I'm going to put $100 on that too. Like I said, this is a team that scored 92 points in Game 4. Is a team that scored just 1.97 points per minute after Kevin Durant went down in Game 5. They only scored 44 points in the entirety of the second half. And they did that despite the fact they shot above 50% on wide open threes. I think there's a lot to suggest that the Warriors will not reach this number. They could still win, but I just don't think they reach this number.
Yeah, I like what you said there. I actually agree with those picks. I'm not going with them, but besides Raptors money line, I think the other two make a lot of sense. This is in a situation where I think you're wrong, and I'm going the opposite way. I think those are pretty spot on.
He's going to need those props after he burns the 300.
Exactly. So, Will, where are you going with your money?
All right. Well, I'm going 200, not 300. Even though I'm actually more confident than Garion, so I don't know. I'm trying to spread it out a little and diversify. I'm going 200 on the Warriors money line for minus 152. I am coming out of hockey bet retirement to bet 100 on the Brewers by 1.5 at plus 175, and another 100 since I'm going with the Bruins on Brad Marchand to score at plus 185. And I will note that if you really feel bold and you think he's either going to score the first or last goal, that's plus 1,000. So that's an interesting dart throw to me, but I'm not doing that. I'd like to keep my record clean on hockey bets. I'm going 50 on Clay over 3.5 threes, which should frankly probably be more because I think he'll clear that easily. 5, 6, 7, maybe 8 threes. It's Game 6 Clay. He's going to show. And then I'm going my boldest, I've been more bold than this in the past, but I'm going 50 on Draymond to get a triple-double at plus 250.
All right, I like that. And you think how many threes is Clay going to hit? Not 3, not 4, not
Listen,
5.
an adjusted spread line on Clay 3-pointers.
Yeah, exactly.
If there was one, I would take like 5.5, frankly.
Wow. I mean, I wouldn't doubt it. It's Game 6 Clay, no Kevin Durant. But
if they're gonna win, he's gotta score 3. So I mean, and I feel like they're wholeheartedly going to win. So
I know it's a competition between us, but
I think he may clear 3.5 in the first half.
Yeah. More importantly, people listening and watching, I want them to win. I do support almost all those bets. For mine, this is going to be a little controversial. I really love Kawhi Leonard under 31.5 points. I'm going 200 of my dollars on Kawhi under 31.5. I just
Why is
think
that controversial?
Because I said Kawhi is going to play a tons of minutes. I think he's going to shoot the ball a lot. I just think they're going to wind up double teaming him. And I believe in Kawhi. He's a stone cold killer. But I just think he's going under 31.5 points in this game.
You explain logically why it's going to happen. You're like, oh my God, controversy. There's not really much controversy.
No controversy. I'm right. How about that? Okay.
I think Will and I would agree that might be the most controversial bet of all time. So,
yes.
You know what?
Yes.
Hey, you're laughing now, but when I win the most money, I think you're going to change your tune. But Steph Curry.
Will Eric use hyperbole next episode minus 20,000, and I'm putting my entire life savings on that.
And so that might be a pretty good bet. So I'm going to take $200 on Steph Curry over 33.5 points. I think he has an offensive explosion similar to his 47-point game.
I mean, if they're going to win, he's gonna have to. So
yeah, and I think we haven't had a game where Curry's been getting free points fouled at the end. That hasn't happened too many times in these playoffs, if at all. So you might see 4 to 6 free throws in the last 45 seconds for Steph Curry.
I mean, if the officiating goes the way I think it does, you're on the money there.
Yeah, and he's been getting bumped a lot all series long, and they finally called the one. Fred VanVleet held his arm. I don't know if you guys remember coming off the screen. They finally made that call.
Yeah, they've been knocking him around a lot. I would imagine that'll swing in their favor some.
This is someone who had 37 free throw attempts in the first 3 games of this series. Like, it's almost like the Seattle Seahawks approach to their secondary in the glory days, where it's like they can't call every pass interference. And at a certain point, like, what are you really going to give Steph Curry 25 free throws in a finals game?
In this game, they will. At the game 6.
Dwayne Wade enters the chat.
That's true.
And then for my final bet, I'm going $100 on Game 7 under 5 goals for the Bruins versus Blues. I think it's going to be just a lot of defensive effort. And then if a team does go up 1-0, 2-0, you're going to see a lot of shell and a lot of safe play, like Garion said. So I think the under is the way to go in a game.
3-1 is a very intriguing score to me for whatever reason. Maybe because Eric loves those jokes still, 3 years later. But I mean, the Bruins winning 3-1 would make everybody happy here. Well, except for Garion. Well, Garion didn't bet on the Blues, so it doesn't matter. So yeah, the Bruins winning 3-1 would make everybody happy here. So you're looking for a dart throw, that's plus 1,800.
All right. Well, I think it's been a good first video episode Between the Lines. I hope we went through things everyone wants to hear and talked about more lines. Send us a message at Between Lines DK on Twitter. Ask us questions, give us comments, concerns. Listen to us on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher.
And it's your bets, your bad beats, your good beats. Well, good beats, your good bets. I can't.
Your crazy covers. We'll get into all that. And now it's time to give away some money. 5 people are going to win $20 DK each.
Free money
on the screen. So if you're watching, you'll be able to see that right now. And I'll just try to quickly read off the 5 DK usernames to 1. It's K Crawhen. Don't know how to say that, but there you go. Notorious BLT 11, O Hernandez 826, D Campbell 3208, and Candy Canes, who each win $20 to DraftKings from their messages on Twitter. Follow us on Twitter and retweet stuff, reply, give us comments, concerns, and you can get some of that free money too. Any final thoughts, Gary and Will? What do you think?
I was just going to say that Notorious BLT has my eternal respect, along with $20 DK. That's a hell of a handle.
Yeah, that's an amazing name.
Yeah, it's fantastic. But maybe I'll get in the DFS land and take his $20 from him. We'll see, match up with him. But I don't know. Get on our bets. I'm super excited for Game 7 of the NHL, Game 6 of the NBA Finals, and hopefully there's a Game 7.
You can drop
hopefully there's a Game 7.
You can drop the hopefully.
Game 7. Sorry, Garion.
Blasphemy. Well, we'll talk about it on Friday, I guess.
For Garion Thornton, Will Appleby, I'm Eric Rosenthal, and we just went between the lines.